What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for October 29th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. It is Eagles game day. Time to get ready. It still is a divisional game, even if Washington is not that good. So time to get pumped up for that. Nice 1 o'clock game. I'll be watching it on my phone from the soccer fields today. Gotta love that. But before we get into today's episode, quick recap from yesterday. The question of the day was, do you think Philadelphia could sustain another pro team in one of the big four sports? And I think the overwhelming majority of people said no, just because of the passion and everything we have for the teams we have. There was a big enough minority, though, that it was worth mentioning that people thought, you know what? Maybe we could sustain one. And there are a lot of people out here who don't like the Eagles for whatever reason, and they like a team that's far, like, just varies wherever they are. And it's interesting, like, if there was another NFL team, I think it would be hard for an NFL team, actually, though, to be completely honest, in Philadelphia. Despite being like a large city, we're really like a small community. But maybe baseball, maybe another basketball team. You never know. It's just an interesting thing to think about. Personally, I don't think we could sustain it, and maybe that's because I can't imagine what it would be like to have competition. Would it be sort of like how it is in New York? Would it be like your Sixers, Eagles, Phillies versus whatever the new teams would be? I don't know. I do think it's worth noting, though, I feel if there's going to be another professional sports team in Philadelphia, I wouldn't mind seeing a WNBA team. And I think you could either play in South Philly or you could play at the Liacouras Center. Might be a way to possibly help Temple supplement. And this is just purely speculation. I'm basing this off of nothing. I don't even know if it makes sense. But if you get a WNBA team to play at the Liacouras Center, maybe Temple could take some of that money and infuse it back into their sports programs for NIL deals and help even out some of the playing field. I don't even know if that's legal. I don't know if the Temple would do it. I don't know if the WNBA is even looking to move into Philly. But that would be something I wouldn't mind seeing, especially because now that my daughter's getting older and even playing basketball now this year, being able to see a professional WNBA team play in Philly would be, I think, pretty cool. But let me know what you think. That's not the question of the day, but just does that even make any sense to all my lawyers out there? Can that happen? Quick housekeeping. One more quick housekeeping, I should say, before we get into today's episode. I am working on the Back to the Future. It's just we had a nice Halloween party for the kids yesterday, so it's just with soccer and Eagles, it's coming. I'm kind of putting a lot more effort and time into this podcast. So some of the extra time that I had for Back to the Future, not that I'm doing anything with it. I just sometimes I do that's usually a week or an every other week podcast anyway. But stay tuned for that. I did not forget about you, but you can go and check out the Sixers preview. We talked about Dr. J's legacy and even more about the college game. I'm very interested in the landscape and what the next steps are for college sports. So that's why you'll hear me talking about that. But that's Back to the Future with a PH, wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. Okay, the Union got a nice 3-1 win over New England Revs yesterday to take a 1-0 lead in their best-of-3 playoff series. I believe it's Monday or Wednesday they play. Tuesday or Wednesday they play Game 2 up in New England, looking to close that series out and move on to the next round. Flyers suffered a tough 7-4 loss at home yesterday to the Anaheim Ducks. Backup goalie Sam Ersson had a rough go at it, gave up all 7 goals. I did read about this and it was interesting. They expect him to be the backup to Carter Hart long term, and there was some talk about possibly sending him to Lehigh Valley to get some more work in. And for the most part, Tortorella and Briere ultimately said no. They believe in him and they want him to kind of work it out on the NHL level. And again, you can get away with that when you're a young team with low expectations and the goal is to kind of learn the system and play well and improve. And They did have a lot of chances yesterday. The Ducks aren't the greatest team, but the Flyers, being a young team, did not take advantage of all of those chances. So, despite the fact they gave up 7 goals, they had chances that just didn't come, and you expect that out of a young team who's learning how to play. So, if there's anything to take away from a 7-4 loss in the NHL, it's mostly that they're learning, and there are some bright spots that you can take away from that. Speaking of another team that played yesterday, the Sixers won 114-107 up in Toronto. I like the way they battled back. They got down 3. Toronto was like lights out. They were like 8 for 8 or 9 for 9 to start the game from 3-point range. But the Sixers, to their credit, did battle back. Maxey and Joe each had 34 points. I think this is going to be a dangerous combination. And yes, it's a 2-game sample size. Joe has not played his best, but he admitted that he was still shaking off rust. He didn't really play much in the preseason. But I think, man, I through 2 games, and again, this is 100% basing it off of the smallest sample size you can. I like the way Maxey's really stepped up his game. I like the way it fits and flows into Nick Nurse's system. Joe seems like he was way more comfortable yesterday than he was in Milwaukee. They come home this week. And again, here I am getting sucked in. They are my ex, who always, I fall for it every time. It's like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football. This is the time that Lucy's not going to move the ball on me. I know they're going to move the ball on me, but this is the time I'm going to kick it. And this is what the Sixers team does to me. I like the way they're playing. You got to give them a couple weeks to sort of get adjusted in the game flow of the system. But man, the 2 games in, I like what I'm seeing, and it's like, you know what, James, stay home. If they can kind of learn how to play this year again with lower expectations, with that money that's going to be coming out next year for free agency, and you can actually plug in some better talented guy, or more talented guys, I should say, into some of those spots. Whoo, man. Maybe the window for the process is not closed yet. And there I go, sounding like whatever. You guys know how I feel. Do you know who won't let you down, like move the football on you like Lucy? PhillyGoat.com. Go to PhillyGoat.com. Get your Sixers gear. Get your Flyers gear. I've been telling you, this is the time to get in on the Flyers. They're going to be fun within the next couple years. Now is the time. Get in on the ground level. Get your shirts now. That way you can show receipts and just say, hey, I was there from day one. They still have the Philly stuff. Like, I do like that Believe shirt. So go get a Believe shirt for someone for Christmas. All the other stuff, the Philly centric, and they're starting to come out now the way they did with the Phillies for the Eagles Kelly Green. So go check them out. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. Not going to be a beautiful, sunny, warm day like it was yesterday. Why not do a little retail therapy before the Eagles game? All right, time to take a look at the Eagles. And it's going to be a very, very simple breakdown for this. I guess from an injury standpoint, James Bradbury, Jordan Davis, and Zach Cunningham were all questionable. I kind of expect all 3 of them to play. Kevin Byard is going to play. How much? Nick Sirianni did not say, but I think he's going to play a big role in this. I think the big story is Mega John, as they called him. It was the Good Morning Football crew that I think that gave him that name, and I saw a couple people using it on Twitter. I love this name. From here on out, he's going to be Mega John. I'm telling you, Ryan over at Crossing Broad, wrong podcast, wrong thing. Ryan over at Philly Goat. Let's get the Mega John. Especially if he sets that record today, let's get the Mega John t-shirts printed. Let's go. But AJ Brown, I think he's going to get that. I think they're going to try to get that record for him, the 125, 100, whatever many games straight of 125 yards to break Megatron's record. But yeah, Mega John, I love it. As far as the handicap on this, the Eagles are a better team. Washington has not played well since the last time they played the Eagles, that overtime game. The Eagles have other than the loss to the Jets, have gotten and played better. So I really think this is going to be. I don't see any way that the Eagles don't win this going away. I like the spread better when it was 6.5 instead of 7. So my lean on this is Eagles -7. I think they win by 9 or more. But I'm looking at the total on this game, and the total is only 43.5. And 3 of the last 4 games have flown over. The Eagles themselves have scored 23 points in all of them except for 1. I don't think Washington's going to be able to slow down the Eagles. The Eagles might get to 30 themselves. I don't know. The only thing that scares me on this is that if the Eagles defense shuts down Sam Howell and they don't score at all. But like I said, I think the Eagles get to 33 themselves. I think the over is the play here. So officially, we're going to go with the over 43.5 as our official play today. We are 5-4 on the season after we won easily the Dolphins bet last week. So let's get up to 6-4, 60%. We'll take that every time. But I like the over in this a lot. So that is going to be our official bet. I mentioned the weather today. It's not going to be the greatest. So if you don't have soccer like me, before the Eagles game, catch up on the Clashing Conferences podcast. It's a NFC East around the horn style where the guys just talk trash, give their insights and everything. So it's entertaining in that respect, but the trash talking is where it's at. So always a good time watching that. And like I said, if you're anything like me, that guy Randy, man, there's something about him that just but it's a typical Cowboy fan. So that's why it's like, but go check them out. The Clashing Conferences podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. All right, we are sticking, I should say, with an Eagles theme today. Today we're going to go back to 1989, and on October 29th, 1989, the Eagles beat the Denver Broncos 28-24 at Mile High Stadium. They moved to 6-2 on the year and looked pretty dominant, both on defense and offense. In '89, they were coming off the division win where they lost in the Fog Bowl the year before in the playoffs, so expectations were high. And I very, very vividly remember this game because it was a 4:00 game. It was one of the ones where I fought with my mom about not eating dinner until after the game, which I always lost. But they came out and surprised everyone because this is back when the Eagles didn't necessarily have a strong running game. They had a bunch of running backs, but nobody who really moved the needle, like Keith Byers, Anthony Toney, guys like that. But they came out and just pounded the ball against Wade Phillips' team defense that game. But Keith Byers ended up with 23 rushes for 93 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added 3 catches for 22 yards. Anthony Toney had 8 rushes for 38. Randall 6 for 57. And only had 126 passing yards. They made a conscious effort to run the ball that day, and it worked. And then the defense did gangrene, Buddy Ryan defense type things. For 6 turnovers, intercepted John Elway 3 times, recovered 3 fumbles, including a muff punt inside Denver territory in the fourth quarter after Denver had taken a 28-24 lead. They did turn that punt into the game-winning touchdown when Keith Byers went in from 1 yard out with about 5.5 minutes left to seal the game for the Eagles. I'm seeing the Kelly Green the other night and just thinking about this defense is getting me all pumped up for this game today. I'm just But that 1989 team was definitely an enigma. They went 11-5, so they improved their win total, but finished in second place in the division and had to go out to play the Rams in the first round of the wild card, which was not necessarily a good matchup for them. I just remember, and the crazy part about that team in 1989 is they had that game early in the season against the 49ers when they were up 28-3, I think. On Joe Montana, and Joe Montana came back with some fourth quarter magic and beat the Eagles 38-28. That game in particular is one that always sticks out to me, and like you guys know, like I've talked about it a lot on here. I started to write a book and got writer's block, which is why I started the podcast. But the book was about what ifs in Philly sports history, and to me, that game is a great what if, because had they won that game, the Eagles did beat the Giants both times they played that year. Giants went 12-4, and only two of their 4 losses were to the Eagles. So had the Eagles held on to win that game against the 49ers, they would have tied the Giants, actually won the division for the second straight year, and had a different road to through the playoffs. And like, I just wonder if that Rams game was just like a bad matchup. They had to go cross country, or no, I think that game was actually in Philly. Never mind. But the Rams, just for whatever reason, I remember they had like the specific game plan, and it's definitely like one of those frustrating losses. But fun times. One of my favorite Eagles teams was that 1989 team, because the expectations were so much higher because of the year before. But on this day, it was the Eagles beating the Broncos 28-24, coming out and pounding the rock out in Denver, intercepting John Elway 3 times en route to a 6-2 start to the season. They would end up going 11-5. If your car looks anything like mine, I was just, as we were getting stuff ready for this party, looking in the back of my truck, and like I'm pulling out like Pop-Tart wrappers. I don't even know when my kids had Pop-Tarts in my car. So we have a problem. Carcan.com has a solution. Get the trash can right for the back of your seats. Kids can just put their stuff in instead of pushing them down in the seats. Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't even know when they would have had Pop-Tarts, but there was a Pop-Tart wrapper in the back of my car. Carcan.com. If you don't have kids, lucky you, your car is probably immaculate, but they do have other organizational things for your car, for your trunk. Go check them out. Makes a great holiday gift. And the Car Can, the more you buy, you can buy it in bulk, and they give you even more of a discount. Go there at checkout. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery 20 off. All one word, for 20% off your order. I'm telling you, this is the Christmas present you've been waiting for. Go to carcan.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery 20 off for 20% off of your order. All right, so we are officially done with our 2023 inductees. I'm waiting on them, the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, to release their last 20 for 20. They were supposed to at some point this week. I do have a backup for tomorrow, and then I have one last final thing for me that I did. But today is our last look at a player that I feel will be into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame at some point in their career. I talked about Kelsey, I talked about Bryce, and I talked about, I can't think of the other guy I said. Oh, Danny Briere was one, and I know that was sort of a stretch for everything. Let me look here. Oh, Joe. So Kelsey, Harper, Joe, and Danny Briere. Danny Briere was a stretch. I'm speculating a little bit on that. I'll be honest, I'm going to speculate a little bit on this one because it's such a short sample size. But I think at some point we're going to see Bryson Stott is going to be a legitimate star in this league. He came in kind of more in a platoon situation and played a little shortstop, played a little second base last year with Gene. But this year at second base, first of all, money in the field, Gold Glover this year, second full year in the league, hit. Now, knowing that he was going to be the starter, he did much better too. He got off to that hot start at the beginning of the season, breaking Puddinghead Jones's record. But he hit 280 this year, 15 homers, 62 RBI, kind of moved a lot through the lineup. So where he, not having a consistent spot to do that is good. I just think the sky's the limit for him. I like him. He's a very clutch. He hit that key grand slam in the playoffs. He's amazing with 2 strikes. Like some guys, like a Castellanos, a lot of times he gets 2 strikes and you know he's going to strike out. With Stott, I don't feel that with him. I feel like he can battle back, and I guess being close with Bryce Harper, because Bryce is big into that too, kind of helps. But I think Bryson Stott one day will be in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. And again, that's speculation, but I like the way he plays, and I think the sky is the limit for him. So Bryson Stott, let me know what you think. Will he be in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame today? Is he on the road to stardom? I debated going Tyrese Maxey on this as well. I think you can make the argument for both, but I only had room for 5. So let me know what you think. Should I have gone Maxey over Stott, or will both? But that is not the question of the day. Before we get into that, be sure to, if you want tickets, information on this year's induction, as well as the 20 for 20, go to PhiladelphiaSportsHallOfFame.org. If you want to go back and look at past inductees or how you can help or how you can visit the Hall of Fame, go to PhillyHall.org. If you are going and buy tickets to this, let me know. I'll hit you up. It should be a good time. Tomorrow we will be looking either at their 20 for 20 if they release it. If not, I have something on the back burner where we'll look at some of the non-human things that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then we'll end on Halloween with a list of the teams. And then I have a list of teams I think eventually should be in. But lots of fun things coming up next week with the Hall of Fame. So be sure to check them out and hook them up. Time for the question of the day. And this was an easy one. Give me your prediction on the Eagles. What's going to happen today in this Eagles game? Do you see a close game? Do you see a blowout? Do you think this is a trap game with Dallas? I've heard some people say that. Let me know what you're feeling about this Eagles game heading into it. Nice and easy. It's game day. Will Mega John get the record? God, I love that nickname. I mean, I'm sorry. I really do. I love that nickname. I think our official pick, like I said, I think this game goes over. My lean is for them to cover the 7. But I could see this being very similar to the last time they played in Philly. But I think the Eagles win. We move on, 7-1, looking at that Dallas game, and bring on the Cowboys. On this day, back in 1989, Eagles beat the Broncos 28-24 to improve to 6-2 on their season. Sixers, man, I'm telling you, they're sucking me in. I need talked off the ledge. Talk me off the ledge. Be sure to check out Back to the Future. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Sunday. And until next time, go Birds.